I've been going on a mission to watch every, if not most, anime from the year 2000. The year contains both my favorite and least favorite anime, so the journey has been fun, if not a bit tedious at some points, with most lesser known shows being hard to impossible to find. I started with the lowest rated show and have been moving forward one show at a time, which led me onto a fantastic little OVA by the name of Grandeek. Grandeek was originally a high fantasy manga back in 1998, with the OVA, an alternative story, coming out 2 years later. The manga was then rebooted as Grandeek Real in 2005. Admittedly, it was hard to find information on Grandeek. It seems to be as obscure as you could possibly want, so finding a copy of the anime was about as hard as it could be. But the OVA is surprisingly good. It currently holds a 5.8 on Mal, which is a shame to say the least. The only article I could find on Grandeek was a 2013 ANN piece called The Pile of Shame, which is poisoning the well if I've ever seen it. So consider this video as a response to that article, and as to why I think Grandeek is one of the most underappreciated OVAs of all time. To give a quick rundown of the OVA, Luke and Tia are both sent to a mysterious town to eliminate a sword that has been rampantly killing people. Each person is sent there for different reasons, and along the way they encounter others in the city who have connections to the sword or people associated with the sword. The most pressing issue that is brought up by the article is the classic low budget means that it looks bad argument. To quote, "As one would expect, the show looks pretty rough, being not only low budget but also an early digipaint show. While I've been trying to phase out the budget equals quality perspective, in my own personal judgment of things, it is true that the OVA does look somewhat awful, with the specific mention of characters constantly not being shown with their mouths moving during dialogue. This is all true. Being made in the 2000s, the show falls in that gooey period between the end of the 90s and the later 2000s, where cell animation was being phased out as people were starting to use computers and other digital paints. The camera work doesn't help in this regard, since most shots are stationary and there are only a couple of dynamic moments. It's bare bones to the max. But I think overall, the visual style of the OVA is enjoyable, even if it might require some time to get used to. I say this because the focus isn't on the colours and actual drawing and animation of the lines, but on the use of lighting throughout. The opening scene is a mixture of these bright summer days combined with the shadowy tunnels and the contrast between the two. It's a style that isn't seen all too often today, most notably with the ending third of the OVA. There are these contrasts of dark shadowy rooms with the beating sun on a jail cell, which go hand in hand with what the OVA does best, the atmosphere. To say the OVA is dripping in atmosphere would be an understatement. Throughout its 43-minute runtime, the OVA feels like these are the last people on Earth, reaching their conclusion, which had been built up beforehand, which the show rightfully never really chooses to go into. Each character is given only the essentials to operate within the narrative shown, but this OVA feels isolating. It captures that early 2000s aesthetic that could be seen in other works like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. The music that accompanies the OVA was done by Taku Iwasaki. You may know him for the scores to Gurren Lagann and Soul Eater amongst others, and boy does he ever hit it out of the park with Grandeek. He's able to capture and enhance the atmosphere of the show, and as the Pile of Shame article notes, it single-handedly renders the OAV much more emotionally effective than it would have been otherwise. In terms of visual atmosphere beyond shadows, you can't watch for more than 2 minutes without some kind of water being shown on screen. Reflective lakes by hills, puddles on bright sunny days, rusty pipes with low water, water pipes being gutted open, spraying water across the screen. Water is everywhere in the show, and it adds to the atmosphere of the show by being this cryptic element. Water is everywhere, but there are also large sections of almost blistering heat shown. Water is shown as both a deadly force as well as a lifesaver. It hides as well as reveals, and ultimately is the thing which can bring about the end of all the characters in the OVA. It's the subtle but constant reminder that things are off. It makes every use of it that much more engaging. We cannot understand its true purpose in the scenes until the very end of the show. I realize that the thing I value most in anime is atmosphere. Fully Cooley, Perfect Blue, Kiki's Delivery Service, Gunsmith Cats, and Girls Last Chill are my top 5 anime of all time. So perhaps if you care more about the quality of the visuals, then this OVA isn't for you. But if there has been a common theme with my 12 days of anime videos, it's getting underappreciated anime into the limelight and showing them off for what makes them good. Grandeek is not traditionally good, but I really enjoyed my time with it, and if you choose to watch it because of this, I hope you too also see the quality that is in it. I've been Kazimoto. Subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Twitter and share my videos around. Adios.